All right, Facebook. What's up, y'all? Just another slow day in the world of Alabama weather. Nothing going on. For the record, I will say it out loud. I really liked yesterday better. Sunny, 70s. It's a beautiful day. Today is not a beautiful day. Right now we've got our kind of opening slate up. We're going to dive into this. Tyler and I are hanging out with this morning. Amanda is out in Storm Tracker 12. Then we've got Nick, meteorologist Nick Gunner, is kind of batting cleanup for us. He'll be in later this afternoon, and he and I will handle the evening and late newscasts. So we've got a lot happening. If you're watching this, you're on the WSFA Weather Facebook page. We appreciate you being with us this morning. It is still morning, I think. Okay, so let's go. We'll begin with just a quick hello, because we like hellos. So obviously, I am Josh Johnson. The gentleman right here is, what's your name again?
I'm Tyler.
Tyler?
Yeah,
I thought it was Tucker.
A
Tucker
lot of
Seabury.
people do think it says Tucker.
It does sound like it.
It does sound like,
I've never
depending
heard
on your ears, it does.
Talking about his weather open, when they say his name before the newscast, they say, "Here's weather with meteorologist Tucker Seabury." It kind of sounds like Tucker. It also kind of sounds like Tyler. So
I also,
in the eye of the beholder,
our
I
boss
guess.
man also told me that apparently it sounds like Tiger sometimes.
Tiger?
too.
Yeah.
So I got 3 names.
Eldrick T. Seabury.
Eldrick.
That's you, man.
That's me.
Okay, so line of storms pushing through the state. We'll go straight to the radar here. This is a nasty line, but let's put it this way. To some degree, the bark is worse than the bite. What do I mean by that? Well, really, most of this line, let's say maybe this part of the line that you see here, exists in an atmosphere where the air is kind of cool underneath it. Think of that as kind of a layer of protection. It's a layer of cool, stable air between you and the storm. It doesn't mean it protects you completely. Obviously, you can have hail, you can have heavy rain, you can have thunder, you can have lightning. But it helps from a tornado perspective. Elevated thunderstorms like this that are built up on stilts above a layer of cool, stable air underneath them typically don't produce tornadoes. So that's what we're dealing with there. South of there, we'll say this part of the line
Now
down.
we got a Southeast Mississippi tour.
Down here, this is different. This area down here, this is in an area where it's a little warmer, it's a little muggier, and this is an area where we're going to have to watch for some rotation later on today. That's why we have a tornado watch that's in effect for South Alabama. So many of you are having thunder, lightning, heavy rain, gusty wind as the line moves through, but the overall tornado risk for you is much, much lower than it is down to the south. So picture in picture here. So heavy rain, thunder, lightning, gusty wind, right now getting into Auburn. Soon in the next 30 minutes, it will be in Opelika, Beauregard, Little Texas, Alliance, Union Springs, Hector, Shopton, Aberfoyle, Inverness, Orion, Petrie, Luverne, McKenzie, Red Level, River Falls, Castleberry, Evergreen, and Bruton. Heavy rain, thunder, lightning, gusty wind. There is no active tornado warning in our part of the world. There is one tornado warning back in southeast Mississippi. And the overall line here extends way back down to the south. Let me do this. We'll pop up the mobile radar for you. So see that back there. So we've got kind of that to contend with too back here. So that's in this sort of, there's 2 lines of storms down here. And so far this first one has been this area down here. This is what we call junk convection. It's not really doing much. And there's so many storms in there, Tiger, that they sort of compete with each other, and that's good for us.
Yeah. The more you see like that, the better. Now, not every time if you get a line like that does that mean it's good, but so far, all the storms, there's just so much of it, and they're fighting each other for the ingredients. The ingredients are down there. I mean, they absolutely are, but all these storms are fighting each other, and when that happens, I mean, think about it. You got a cookie, 2 of you are fighting for a cookie, you have a pretty good chance of getting the cookie. But if there's 50 people fighting for one cookie, well, your chances are going to go down.
Right, exactly.
So that's what those storms are doing down there.
I like the food analogy, by the way. That's
food's
good.
great.
I feel like I'm teaching you things, man.
I just need a Diet Sunkist.
I really failed on that front. I've got a Diet Coke right here today.
Got an empty water bottle.
There's no caffeine in that, man.
No, that's
You
unfortunate.
got to pick up the pace.
Yeah, I tell you what, and maybe these storms need some caffeine to get their act together, but I mean,
okay with it not.
yeah, we'll take it. And then that back there, we've been watching both of these lines here, and analyzing what's down there, and if they're going to produce a tornado, if there's a tornado threat, and That tornado warning is in an area where the ingredients may not be perfect for a tornado.
But they're enough.
They're enough, and that's maybe the case. I mean, there's something going on there. I mean,
over to LIX. Okay, there you go.
Okay, yeah, there's a little something there. And that's what we're watching. That's our southern counties. That's the environment our southern counties will be in throughout the day. That's why that tornado watch is there. And then I think we should hit on I know we've also talked about this. When all of this clears out, that doesn't mean we're technically done with any sort of storm chances for the rest of the day.
No, there will be more storms. The modeling's pretty consistent in that idea. So there's the line, north to south.
Auburn, Montgomery, I mean, you're already done with the worst of it.
Right. Now, the million-dollar question is what happens later today. Here's the latest modeling, and before I show you this, let me just say just up front, the modeling today has really struggled, and I'm putting it diplomatically, with the timing of this whole thing. For instance, what does it show right now? Line here. I guess it's getting a little better, but it still shows the most intense part of the line approaching Montgomery at 9 a.m. The actual leading edge of the line is 40 miles east of there.
Mm-hmm.
So in the grand scheme of the world, it's a small miss, but in a where we live scheme of the world, it's a pretty big miss. So what happens later today, and what are we talking about here? So this is 9 a.m., 10 a.m., 11, noon, 1, 2. So now through 2, that original line makes its way down into southeast Alabama. It's probably too slow. It's probably out of there by noon or 1. Then back behind it, see this right here, these individual storms behind that main line, those will have to be watched too. Now the overall risk level here is not off the charts. I think it's more on the low end, but it would need to be watched. So you've got the line itself pushing through now that I think could produce isolated tornadoes in the southern and southeastern counties. Then behind the line, if these storms pop, they would be in an environment where there's at least a low-end tornado risk. Now, I'm showing you what this is. This is the forecast three-dimensional state of the atmosphere. Notice how all these lines right here point in the same direction. That means that the wind is blowing from roughly the same direction at the ground as it is 15,000 feet above the ground. That's not a great tornado environment, which is good for us. Tornadoes form typically in atmospheres where the wind is blowing from the south or southeast near the ground, and it goes around to west or southwest up above the ground at the cloud level. We call that directional wind shear. So that's the story there. Could you get a tornado in that? Yeah, you could. Could I win the lottery?
You could.
You could. But the odds, I think, would be pretty low. I think the main concern there would probably be hail, and even that's not a huge deal. So overall, I would suggest to you, watching at home, this is playing out about as well as it could have, maybe, so far. Now, it's early. Now, please don't, we're not done with this. There's still an active tornado watch in South Alabama. There's an active line of storms moving through the rest of the state. But I guess maybe my feeling is so far so good.
Yeah.
You agree or disagree?
I would agree with that. And, and that's, that doesn't mean, by the way, with us putting out that risk, that level 3 medium threat on our scale and, first alert weather day, it's way too early to say there was no severe weather. I mean, we've had multiple severe thunderstorm warnings. It's been loud. It's been an impactful morning. This is probably one of the louder and most widespread line of storms we've had in quite some time.
It is.
And it's still possible you get a couple of tornadoes, and you say this all the time. It takes one tornado, it hits a community, that community's lives are changed forever.
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't mean when we say there's a first alert weather day or there's a high risk of severe weather or medium risk in today's case that every single city and town are going to get hit by severe weather.
Right.
That's never going to happen.
No.
It's one town getting hit by a large tornado would be a horrible day.
Even a low-end tornado.
Exactly.
Because, April 27, 2011, biggest tornado outbreak in our lifetimes. Today's nothing like that, so don't misinterpret what I'm about to say. On that day, 1% of the landmass of Alabama was directly affected by a tornado. You and I know that as a huge number. It's massive.
Mm-hmm.
But on that day, that means on that day, which was our worst day in 50 years, 99% of the state had no tornadoes.
Right.
So tornadoes are small. Cities, counties, states are very big. So even on a bad day, your odds of getting underneath one are low. So don't get wound up in words like high risk, medium risk, low risk. last May, we had an EF1 tornado hit our house. We had stuff thrown everywhere. Grill got destroyed. Table got messed up. Had a neighbor's trampoline was on the shed.
Remember
Had to replace my roof. To us, that was a huge deal.
Right, highly inconvenient.
Like the next day, I was off work trying to clean up the yard, and there's chainsaws everywhere and trees down on people's houses.
Right.
The whole neighborhood's like a war zone. And that was an EF1 tornado on the pretty low end of the spectrum.
Right. But
when it hits you, it's
the biggest weather day, one of the biggest weather days of your life.
Right. So we just want you to be ready for that. So some questions. We always like questions.
You can go hour by hour, maybe show the STP so you can see where the tornado threat is.
How it kind of plays out.
I saw some people asking for...
Sure, yeah. Tornado watch for Troy. I think it is possible. Maybe not likely, though, but possible. Stay tuned. Okay, so this is the significant tornado parameter that you're seeing here. You'll notice it's through the rest of the afternoon. It's there.
That's interesting.
Kind of pops up into the afternoon and early evening. If we have a secondary batch of storms?
I feel like those are all storms making their own environment.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, and I mean that afternoon one. If you show me a surface wind map at 5 o'clock in the evening, I'll be able to tell you exactly what the risk is. If you see a bunch of southerly and southeasterly surface winds at 3, 4, 5 o'clock, look out. If you see southwest surface winds at 2, 3, 4, 5 o'clock, risk is there, but it's a lot lower.
Mm-hmm.
So,
and this is conditional. We don't even know if there will be a single storm that fires up this afternoon.
Right, because this line we're dealing with now has really turned over the atmosphere. It's really cooled things down, stabilized the air mass. Let's go back to put radar back behind us here. Well, I'll put radar in the small screen there. Whoopsies. That's operator error. Stand by. There we go. That's what we're trying to do. Any idea when we're totally in the clear for Wetumpka? I think 6 o'clock probably this evening. Now, the main line's through you now, so you're going to get a break in the risk of severe weather at Wetumpka. It's going to rain for hours. There could be isolated flooding problems. And then late today, 2 to 6, we could see a secondary batch of storms get going. For Montgomery, everything I just said, same thing. You're getting a break now. It rains for a few hours, but there may be another wave of storms that forms later. Stuart asks, is there a chance of strong tornadoes? Stuart, is there a chance? Yeah, I would have told you that chance was a lot higher at 2 a.m. personally.
Yeah, that's exactly why, if you saw, I know a lot of folks have access to it, the Storm Prediction Center's outlooks, they're all over social media. They had the risk of a couple stronger tornadoes, and I mentioned it this morning, there could be 1 or 2 that are a little stronger, and the environment and the forecast would have supported that.
Right.
But Mother Nature doesn't care what our forecast says.
Doesn't even listen.
It never does.
So one thing I'd be interested to show you, watching at home. So this is a computer-generated forecast sounding for southwest Alabama at 10 a.m. Notice how the wind, these lines are all essentially from close to the same direction. Not exactly, but close to the same direction. Okay, so I'm going to go back in time here, and I'm going to show you what it looked like this morning. This is at 3 a.m. for the same time and place. So what I'm doing, I'm showing you an earlier run of the data we were seeing when we assembled the forecast. Now that's entirely different. See how here in the old data you had a south-southeast surface wind that went around to southwest aloft, tons of wind shear. This is a tornado-producing environment.
100%. Yep.
So this is the data we were seeing early this morning. Now this is what the new data, same place, same time looks like. Look at that change in those lines. Now you don't have that southeast surface wind. Now you have south-southwest, and there's just not as much directional wind shear in the atmosphere. Okay, so that answers that question. Near Deatsville was awful around 8, I believe it. What about Marbury? Same thing for Marbury that we said for Wetumpka and Montgomery. Amanda says at Bates, y'all want a turkey leg.
Yes.
She's at Bates House Turkey down in Greenville. Good stuff.
Bring back some, please.
Bring back 5 or 6. We'll take care of them. Pine Hill looks to be in the clear. Not quite yet. You've still got some storms southwest of you that you've got to watch. And then there's that whole will we have a second wave thing later today? Pine Hill there in Wilcox. You're doing all right for now. Yeah, you get a break for sure. And if the second wave doesn't form, then you probably are done.
Yeah. You know what's interesting is
What's interesting? I like interesting things.
all that stuff down in southwest Alabama, outside of the Escambia County storm, there's not much lightning compared to what we have in Montgomery, despite the parameters down there being much more supportive of severe weather. I think that's interesting because lightning oftentimes, I feel like, has something to do with, when you get a tornado, you see lightning is going. Yeah. So that's interesting.
And the stuff back in Mississippi is producing a decent amount of lightning.
Yeah.
At least the storm southeast of Hattiesburg is.
They dropped that tornado warning early, by the way. So
Did they?
I don't think the environment back there is like.
It's not as good as it appeared it would be.
Right.
That's good for us, though.
Yeah, we'll take it.
And I think a lot of what's happening, the low-level winds back here, like Mobile has a southwest surface wind now. The low-level winds back here are more southwest, and I think that is really helping us out here in this kind of setup. So, doing a mic check, I think.
Oh, that scared me.
Me too.
Are we on?
She's just testing.
All right. Thanks, Charlie.
Crisis averted. What about Opelika? Rain and storms continue in Opelika. It's going to stay rainy throughout a big chunk of the morning, obviously. The worst of it's moving into Opelika right now, actually. Another 10 or 15 minutes of extremely heavy rain, and then it rains most of the day after that. Dadeville, Jackson Gap, everything I just said applies. Maria wants a turkey leg.
Wow.
Yeah.
I think a lot of us would.
There's a lot of comments on here about wanting a turkey leg.
That does sound pretty good. There's Elba on there. That's a different location. Elba and Ozark.
Yeah.
Those are both probably higher end risk areas compared to everyone else.
Risk a little higher down there for you. For Elba and Ozark, I think you've got another solid hour and a half before things start to go downhill. Line of storms will come through. Risk of isolated tornadoes, damaging wind, large hail. Do we have timing for Ozark? Gosh, that's tricky. 10 to 6? I mean, the main line for Ozark is probably more like 11 to 3, 11 to 2.
Yeah. It's
for Ozark.
Yeah.
And then later in the afternoon, you could deal with some scattered stuff.
Did I just hear you say it might could?
It might could. And I never say that.
Wow, don't those words mean the same thing?
They do.
I like it.
Redundancy for 200. Renee asked if I'm all stocked up on Diet Sunkist. No, I don't have any.
I feel like there'd be one here if you did have it.
Do you think coastal convection will occur and cut off instability for places near Birmingham? Yes. I actually think that is happening right now. So, good question there. Storming in Opelika. What about Georgiana? Could Montgomery see tornadoes this afternoon? If we knew when and where exactly there would be tornadoes, we'd leave the station and go door to door. Is what I always tell people. When they ask, could we see a tornado today in Pike Road? If I knew that, if I had that answer, I would be in Pike Road knocking on doors.
And you'd be rich.
I don't, though. I don't know that answer. I think there's a chance, yes. There is still a tornado risk in Montgomery for the storms later today. The morning stuff is through, though. So from a tornado perspective in Montgomery, there's no imminent threat of a tornado, and there isn't for at least another couple of hours. Now, later on into the afternoon, that could change. It is hailing in Opelika. I believe that. What about Prattville? Everything I just said for Montgomery applies for you. What about Camp Hill? Same exact answer. Will we need to get the kids from school? No idea. That's up to you and your kids. I would leave them in school if you're asking about what I would do. What about Corinth? What about Clio? What about Eufaula? What about Clayton? Lowndes County.
I think we've almost hit every geographical location.
How about Enterprise? What is the Died Sunkist risk?
Very high.
Right.
Well, not yet, but
pretty low right now, yeah. So let's just kind of maybe go back through this and recap a little bit.
Yeah.
There's a line of storms pushing through the state right now. And if you've asked a question about your specific town, city, community, we will get to that question, I promise, with this answer. If you just pay attention to this answer, I'm going to address essentially everyone. So if you're asking about specific spots, let me save you some strokes typing and get you some answers. So here's the map. This is the timing map. So through 2 o'clock in the afternoon, there could be more storms fire behind the line later this afternoon that could produce a brief tornado. That risk would extend through about 2 o'clock at Demopolis, Linden, Uniontown, Marion, Selma, Orville, Plantersville, Valley Grande, Maplesville, Camden, Millers Ferry, Safford, Alberta, Monroeville, Beatrice, Vredenburg. So in all of those places I just named, the main line of storms has essentially pushed through. There could be a secondary risk of storms later today. Okay, what about the middle of the state? So everyone listen up. If you live in Rockford, Clanton, Wetumpka, Lake Martin, Alexander City, Prattville, Billingsley, Marbury, Pine Level, Montgomery, Pike Road, Lounsboro, Leadahatchee, Davenport, Greenville, Laverne, Highland Home, Fuller's Crossroads, Georgiana, Andalusia, Red Level, River Falls, Evergreen, and Bruton. Storms have essentially moved, the first line has essentially moved through your area as well. Later today, more storms could fire. They could produce an isolated tornado and some damaging wind and perhaps some nickel to quarter-sized hail. That threat extends through roughly 5 o'clock this evening. In the eastern counties of the state, so I'm talking Dadeville, Lafayette, Valley, Lynette, Buffalo, 5 Points, Auburn, Opelika, Beauregard, Smith Station, Shorter, Tuskegee, Franklin, Union Springs, Troy, Brundage, Orion, Ozark, Enterprise, Elba, Geneva, Dothan, Abbeville, Eufaula, Phoenix City. For you, the main line of storms is arriving right now, this first line. The overall risk level with it is relatively low for tornadoes. It could produce isolated pockets of damaging wind. We can't rule out a tornado on the south end of that, from roughly Troy to Eufaula and south. But the risk of a tornado within this initial wave of storms is very low for you. Later today, more storms could fire. These will be scattered in nature. They won't affect everyone, and they could produce a low-end tornado threat through roughly 8 o'clock.
We got a severe for Conecuh and Escambia.
Conecuh and Escambia. So hopefully, it is my sincere hope that that answered all of the whatabouts.
I think you listed every city. You did a great job.
I listed a bunch of them, but
Birmingham also saying changes to the forecast are about to be made, and an updated graphic is going to be coming out in the next hour. So they're noticing
knock
changes
that risk
as well.
down. They're going to knock that risk down.
They
Woo,
did say for the Conecuh and Escambia tornado possible with that storm. So that's interesting.
It's almost like a default, I think.
Yeah, Atmore, Evergreen, Castleberry are all in that. Castleberry, right, Josh?
Castleberry.
Okay, I don't want to ever say city wrong. You know what I mean?
Oh, if you live here long enough, you'll say a bunch of them
Big city
wrong.
of Huxford and Brooklyn are in there too.
Brooklyn, yeah. Brooklyn's a thing.
We got Michael here. He wants to be on this Facebook Live, I think. Producer Michael in the house.
Dr. Shipman, join us.
Josh, if you don't mind, catch up with you when you guys are done in here. Not pressing at all. Just want to talk over stuff for name. Just make sure.
Like March Madness, or?
Yeah, my
Yeah.
bracket's busted, man.
Yeah.
Don't talk to me about that.
Look, I'm trying to get some money off y'all.
Well,
He's a shark. This
I had
guy.
Kentucky winning
He's
it
a
all,
shark.
so that's awesome.
Did you really?
Yeah, and then the Peacocks. I don't know what happened, man.
Tyler Anderson asked, can we get an update on Slap Out with AC/DC blasting in the background? It's a long way to the top if you want to rock and roll.
Please, can we make that happen?
I think Tyler Anderson would be cool to hang out with.
Sounds like it.
Jacqueline,
got a great name,
thank
too.
you for all the... Is it Tyler, Tucker, or Tiger? Pamela, well, the first comment after all those was missed op.
Wow.
Yep. Op was on that, or next to that map. There's a line running right through it. So Op, storms are on the way. They will arrive later this morning. I think for Op, the arrival time's between 10:30 and 11. Risk of damaging wind, heavy rain, thunder, lightning. We can't rule out an isolated tornado down in that part of the state. After all, you're under a tornado watch. Then later today, new storms could fire. I think most of those would say north of you, but there could be another low-end severe weather risk this afternoon. The severe weather risk will end at Op no later than 7 o'clock, 8 o'clock this evening. How's that?
Wow.
How'd we do?
That was incredible.
What about Corinth? Corinth, Mississippi? Or a different Corinth? Let me know.
Where is Corinth, Mississippi?
Far northeast Mississippi.
Oh, that's way out of this whole.
Yes. No, I'm sure there's a Corinth, Alabama, but let's look it up. I think that would be a first for me to have a question about Corinth, Alabama. I'm here for it.
Where is that?
North of Wadley, okay. The trusty Google Maps.
Oh, right next to Big K's RV Park. I knew that.
Of course.
Yeah.
So that's up in Randolph County. Just FYI. Looks like Randolph.
Yeah.
It'll be on the line, I think. For Corinth, storms coming through right now. Or still heavy rain, let's put it that way. The core of it is blown through in the last 30 minutes. Lots of rain for you. Probably some isolated flash flooding. So that's the Corinth report. There you go. Anything else before we wind this puppy down?
We're good with it for now.
So overall here, the feeling is this: trends early during this event are good. Think of us, we're kind of like the people on election night. The pundits who cover elections. There's projections, there's forecasts. We talk about those, and then the event gets there, and you sort of watch and see how it unfolds.
Yep.
And there's usually a surprise here and there. It usually goes more or less according to script, but there's always something that didn't quite go the way you thought it would.
Mm-hmm.
So we just kind of walk you through this. Beth asking, where in the world is Amanda in Storm Tracker? She is in Greenville. Apparently at Bates House of Turkey.
Yeah.
Making turkey leg promises.
Mm.
So, Brittany, what about Reeltown? It's raining. It's going to continue to rain on and off. Or actually more on. It's going to rain quite a bit. There's no on and off to that. It's on through at least probably noon, maybe later. More storms could pop later today. Those could have a risk of severe weather. So, the million-dollar question, what happens? What about Corinth in Bullock County? You got it. I've never heard of that one.
Wait, there's two Corinths
It would appear
in
so.
Alabama?
It would appear so.
What? How can you have two places in the same state with the same name?
Oh, we got more pine levels than a skunk has smell, man.
Are you kidding? That's confusing.
I'm not kidding. Yeah, there's a pine level around every corner in our state. And then the weirdest thing we do is our whole county city name situations. I'm from Jacksonville. You think that's in Jackson County?
Why would it be?
Nope. Greensboro. Greene County? Nope. Hell County. What about City of Marion? It's got to be in Marion County, right? No, Marion is in Perry County.
Montgomery, though.
Fun fact.
Uh-oh.
They're actually named for two different guys.
The city and the county?
Yes. The city's named for one Montgomery, and the county is named for a different Montgomery.
Learn something new every day.
So it's almost a
Wow.
coincidence that Montgomery is in Montgomery County.
Right.
Like if that other guy's name had been Richard Smith, it would be
Montgomery or Smithville.
Smithville in Montgomery County. So
Oh, no.
the more you know.
Well, Monroeville, there you go. There's one that lives up to its...
Thank you. We're happy about that. For Bullock County, it's moving through right now. You may get some hail in a couple of spots there in the western part of the county. There's a lot of thunder. There's probably some lightning in that. Gusty winds, very dark skies, very heavy rain. That will last for 30 minutes. Then it will rain for a big chunk of the day. And then this afternoon, we may deal with a second batch of storms that could develop in a few spots that could cause isolated problems with tornadoes and large hail. Concerns of Montgomery and time ranges. We'll go back to the time range graphic. There you see it. For Montgomery, the morning risk of storms has swept through. Now we just deal with hours and hours of rain. And then this afternoon, there is a secondary risk of strong storms. Could include a possible tornado risk, but the overall risk level of that is lower than what we're dealing with now. What about Troy? Looking bad out here. Storms are arriving in Troy right now. I bet it is.
We got a new mesoscale discussion from the SPC.
What's that puppy say?
About what you would expect. So, Crenshaw, Butler, Conecuh, Escambia, Covington, Coffee, and Geneva are circled by the Storm Prediction Center as having the relatively higher tornado risk for the next few hours. There it is right there.
There is the graphic about which my colleague speaks.
Surface obs show rapidly increasing low-level moisture just ahead of the southern cluster. So
that's what we're talking about. The Storm Prediction Center will issue these. They're called mesoscale discussions. They're just kind of a guide. And that's it right down there. The next couple of hours, tornadoes possible in this part of the state. So like Tyler said, that's Escambia, Conecuh, southern Butler, southern Crenshaw, Covington, Coffee County, Geneva County, down into the Panhandle. So we're not out of the woods yet. We've said that a few times. I thought weathermen could predict the future and read the clouds. Wind whisperers. Come on, people.
I mean, wow. Supercell composite parameter is a 12 all the way up into Marengo County. So behind this line, it is like destabilizing really fast.
Allegedly.
Allegedly.
So there you have it. We're watching mainly South Alabama for scattered, isolated tornadoes. Then we're curious to see if later today more storms will fire with a tornado risk. That is possible. The latest run of the HRRR, the high-res rapid refresh model, suggests that could happen. The overall environment for those storms isn't off the charts or anything, but it's there. Weird.
That is weird at the lower.
Yeah. And
I mean, look at the sin. There is some sin there. You got
very dry.
Yeah.
That's a dry looking sounding.
You would have to have an extremely strong updraft to maintain itself through all that dry air. I mean, look.
Weird.
That was interesting.
It's a weird sounding. Friend near Pelham says tornado warning is going off.
That's a problem.
That's a problem. There is no active tornado warning near Pelham right now. And no storm that would produce a tornado in Pelham. Pelham does not have a tornado risk as of this moment. If more storms fire later today, never say never, but the overall risk I think would be pretty low in Pelham later. Just joining, how about Beauregard? Raining cats and dogs there now. Radar. Take you into the guard, which is
disrespectful. It doesn't even pop up.
It's right in there. I've circled the general Beauregard area. Raining torrentially, no sign of rotation in that. Select the closer radar, get better data that way. It will rain for hours at Beauregard, but the severe weather risk has paused. There could be a second risk of severe storms later today into the afternoon. Headed from Troy to Montgomery on the asphalt. Troy Highway, keep me updated, Josh. Troy to Montgomery. Oh, boy. Michael, be careful, man. That's going to be a rough ride. There's going to be a lot of heavy rain. Hydroplaning is a always concern. So take it easy, slow down. You know the drill there. What about Elba, New Brockton, Honorable? There's rain and storms around. How about that? Later today, more storms could pop. These could produce an isolated severe risk. Can we get a campaign going for a meteorology program at AUM? That'd be sweet.
We could teach it too.
I'd love that.
That'd be fun.
We have a great relationship with the chancellor out at AUM, so I'll put in a good word, Tyler. We'll get a MET program at AUM and a radar in West Alabama.
Hey.
Boy, that'd be something. What about Selma? Are we done? You're done with the first batch. Yes, it rains for a little while longer, then you'll get a break, and then more storms will pop later today. Some of those could be strong to severe. We can't rule it out. The risk level is lower out of that second wave. That second wave will be more little pockets of storms. It will not be what we're dealing with now, which is one continuous line. Like everyone's getting rain right now out of this line. If you aren't, you will soon. The thing this afternoon will be scattered storms. So some of you are going to look at the sky and say, it's sunny outside. They blew it. You guys are wrong. What I always tell people, you can never judge a rain forecast without looking at a radar, because that's what we're kind of getting into here. Our coverage area is not your front yard and your backyard. Our coverage area goes from just about Mississippi to Georgia to Florida. Roughly the southern half of Alabama, minus a few counties here and there from Meridian, Columbus, Dothan, and Mobile. So, yeah, Diana makes a good point. If you missed anything, you can go back and rewatch this. You certainly can.
Oh, that is a great point.
So, with that said, I'm going to wind this thing down because we've got work to do. We've got to be on the air in about an hour and 10 minutes for Alabama Live. And then between that time, we've got new data coming out we need to look at. Some coordination we need to do. So
we'll update the website.
We're going to do a weather app video, get a website update pushed out. Watch the app throughout the day. We will keep you updated there. We'll post to Facebook when we can, but please remember, Facebook is actually a pretty lousy source of getting weather information. The lives are good if people watch them. The issue with Facebook is I post a weather update, Facebook buries it deep. Most of you don't even see it. Or if you do see it, you see it an hour later or a day later. It's useless. So watch the weather app. We'll push you updates there throughout the day. That is a far better resource for you, and it will auto push watches and warnings. So there you go. Huh. Got some spam on here now.
That's awesome.
Oh. Whenever you start reading a question and the first sentence is, "Do you believe that herpes has a permanent cure?" You know we've been spammed.
In this chat, yeah,
that's a little out there. So we'll delete that. It's all spam. That part's spam. So those of you who are not part of the spam club, we appreciate your time. We're going to turn you loose, though. We're going to start pushing updates to the app, the website. It's already updated, but we're going to put fresh updates there. And then be sure to watch, if you're near television, Alabama Live coming up at 11, really 10:58. So there you go. Sarah says, I agree. I just wish you had a place we can see you in one place during these kind of days. The weather app is that place, Sarah. We're there pretty much constantly. What? Just have a Facebook Live that's like a GoPro attached to all of our heads.
Just see our entire day?
We're just there with us
That'd be
the whole
kinda fun.
day. There with us the whole day. All right, y'all have a good day. We'll probably do another Facebook Live this afternoon. So watch for that. Watch the weather app. Watch for updates on TV as well. If we have a tornado warning, obviously, we'll break into programming and let you know about that. All right.